Peace, God. Peace, Goddess. Peace and blessings from the Most High God. Ashe. I came to talk to you about this interaction I had, which led me to a view, a point of view. Led me to an ego death, where I realized I was holding on to my ego. Now, this is something that pertains to terrible lighting, but it doesn't matter, looking at me, don't matter. Ego. So this is the thing, I went on a trip one day. I was going to Colorado to go see my son, and I was on the train. And on the train, I got high. I smoked, I went to the dispensary. I smoked a blunt. But it was some Zaza, some exotic, right? So I'm sitting on the train, and I'm just sitting there spacing, zoning, vibing to my music, just chilling. And on the train, it's pretty much, it's a normal, normal passengers, normal amount of passengers, normal every day, right? But I see this white man. This white man looks at me and he looks over, he looks through the train. He looks ahead and he looks to the side and he looks when he catches my eye, he stops. And he's looking behind him. And then he stares at me for a minute and then he gets up from his seat and comes down a few seats and comes to talk to me. And this guy was this guy was higher than I was. And so I'm just he's you ever done psychedelics? And I was yeah, I tried LSD before. I was I want to try shrooms. I hadn't tried it yet, but this is back in the day. So we began talking, and he was telling me about how the phone is similar to our subconscious. And the iCloud is called the iCloud for a reason. Because the iCloud downloads and stores from the collective conscious. And these devices are just a replica of that. What you see in the Matrix, this is the machine. This all-seeing eye, we have this all-seeing eye. This all-seeing eye is in all God's creations, and that's how he sees everything. Because he is everything. He is connected to everything. Let everything that have breath praise the Lord. It began changing the way I was thinking. But he said something that was really powerful to me, that really stood out. He said, I don't see color, man. And I just started laughing. I'm just come on, bro. If I wasn't black, you wouldn't even have said, I don't see color. If I was a white man, you wouldn't have said, I don't see color. But because I'm black, he said, I don't see color. But so I laughed at it at first, just the opening of his statement. But then he went on to say, racism is a program. Colorism is a program. And separation is an illusion. And this really started to blow my mind. Because I was realizing how I was trapped in my ego. Saying something I'm black or I'm African American. When in reality, I'm native, I'm a native aboriginal to the Americas. But just to say and all life stems from Africa and we spread out. But just to say that's a program. When you're in school, they program you. They give you a race. They tell you your race. They tell you your gender. They tell you your ethnicity. They even tell you to pick a occupation when you barely know, you don't even know your times tables yet. And you're still learning to spell your name. They tell you, pick an occupation. What do you want to be? What do you want to be? A firefighter, a doctor, a lawyer, a nurse? And then whatever you choose, they document it. Like, okay, so and so, Timmy said he wanted to be a lawyer. Anne said she wanted to be a nurse. Okay. And then they take it home to their mom, like, look, this is what they said they wanted to be when they grow up. Okay. Like, and so you're pretty much set from that point. All your education, everything you do, focus on that occupation and what they are programming you to be. And so they even, like in history class, they teach us these things. They show us these videos. They teach us about segregation and everything that happened in the past, right? And a lot of what they document is a lie. But if you believe it, then the program is successfully installed into you. Like saying we're different. Like it was like the Tower of Babel. They declassified us. Okay, your texture hair is 9C, yours is 8B. Your skin tone is you're a few shades lighter. You have these different phenotypes. You have this eye color, this hair texture, and this skin tone. You're this race of people. And we were all tribes. The black woman possesses the Eve gene, which contains all of the phenotypes in every race. And so racism is an illusion. It's a program. It's very real, but it's a program. Race is an illusion. They created race to begin the rat race. Same way they created the caste system. Then they created racism, which gives you a grid. And so I was tripping with this man, just vibing, just listening to what he had to say. And he said, racism is a program, man. He's like, I deleted that a long time ago. And I was just like, wow. That's deep. Like, the thing about racism is we're all one. And racism is something that they want us to participate in. And so we take pride in whatever race we are. And we further separate ourselves when there's only one race, the human race. In the beginning, we were all black. There's black aboriginals on every land. The Ainu in Japan. You got in Africa, you know the aboriginals there, the aboriginals in Australia, the aboriginals in Europe. What you see is the Celts, the Celtics, the Irish. You see, like, once they go back so far in their history, it's all black. In the beginning, there was darkness. And see, even in Kemet, before Egypt was conquered, or Kemet was conquered, and they changed the name to Egypt, it was called Kemet, which means the land of black faces. And so, while I was processing a lot of trauma, I connected with my guys. Did a lot of astral projection. I connected with that Akashic Records, which is a library of the collective conscious, and time doesn't exist. So this library contains everything under the sun, every possibility, every instance in the past and future. Though the past cannot be rewritten, the future, your future, and the collective future is still undecided. It's unwritten. When we have premonitions and things of the future, they're only possibilities. And depending on our actions, our thoughts, and our frequency, and where we align with space, time, and frequency, we align with that possibility, but there are infinite possibilities in the universe. And so I did some soul searching. And then I found out in the beginning, it was us. we did it to ourselves, and we're still doing it to ourselves to this day. In the beginning, there was only black faces. We see one of our greatest civilizations, Egypt or Kemet. We had pride in our black skin. And when we first produced the first, what's the word I'm looking for? When we produced the first albino, man or woman, they were outcasted because they had white skin. Their skin was palm colored. They were melanin deficient. The same way when the goddesses produced the first man, this created a further separation. The goddesses produced the first man. Then they fought over that man. Then they controlled that man and subjugated that man. And then they made other men. And then they made men fight their wars, because before then, animals would fight their wars. And this is where you get the witch and the familiar. Women were one with nature. And so they subjugated all of creation, not just the forces of the earth and the elements, the earth, wind, air, or the earth, the air, the fire, the water, and the ether. This was something they could easily control. They were in tune with themselves and all of nature, and they could control the animals. The witchcraft of what you think it is today was first practiced on animals. And this is why you saw the animal sacrifices at the beginning of the Bible. This wasn't the beginning of time, this was a section of time. And it was then later practiced on men. And after a time, there became a war where you see men begin to denounce women and engage in homosexuality and even femicide, where they would hate women and they were jealous of women and they wanted to be women because they came from women and they did not understand their purpose was to be with women. They were created with a purpose. And they rebelled against that purpose. And they exalted themselves over the woman, and they killed the woman. And they drove her out. And there was an island called Lesbos Island, where they get the term lesbian from, where women would seek refuge on this island because the men that they created hated them. And what we see today now is femicide is on the rise. Misandry and misogyny on the rise. Both of these forces, representing the external being, masculinity and femininity, exist outside of us now as genders and gender polarity, as a male embodying mostly masculine energy and a female embodying mostly feminine energy, but both energies are one in the male and in the female, originally in the female, because she was the first creation with the X and X chromosome, until the mutation happened where there was the X and Y, and even the hermaphrodite, where you see the clitoris protrudes into a penis, and then the opening of the vagina, or there's variations between the full form and the regression. And the evolution or transition from male to female, because in the womb, we all start off That's female. In the beginning, there were only female women, goddesses, black goddesses. And this is where we see Madonna. And if you look at Madonna, the Black Madonna, they worship the Black Madonna or the Virgin Mary and Jesus. Or not in Jesus, they worship the Black Madonna or the Virgin Mary in Russia. You see in those churches, the Pope even. All these places in Europe, they worship the Black woman because she is the first goddess. She is the first fallen angel. She is the first one to descend on earth and begin life as we know it. She is our oldest ancestor. And so I go on to say, you see the Black Madonna everywhere. If you go to Mexico, she's called Our Lady of Guadalupe, the Virgin Mary. Or you know her as the Virgin Mary, if you were to go to some certain parts of Africa and Europe and America. The Lady Liberty, which was originally a black woman until racism. When after the Louisiana Purchase, it was a black woman who was the Lady Liberty. However, the Americans didn't like that image of a black woman. And so it was originally a gift for the country. But see, they didn't like that imagery. The same way they didn't like the image of a black Virgin Mary or a Black Madonna. And so they whitewashed it. But this is the thing. See, in the Bible where it talks about you will be sold into your enemies for 400 years, you will be in captivity. And you will be as slaves. They were talking about us, the black people, the carbonated beings. So the reason why that is, I've come to find, is actually karma. Racism is something to where we say it's systematic, right? Because you control infrastructures, you influence, and you have a certain power. And with that, you cause corruption, injustice, control, and subjugation based on the color of your skin. Now, they tell you black people can't be racist. It's one and the same. Well, you can call it prejudice, but it's one and the same. You're just splitting hairs. And I say it's karma because we started this. Everything that you see that the white man is doing, we did all of it and more to each other. See, just like I said, how the woman used to have domination over all the animals in the earth and the elements. If you look at Ethiopia, one of the only countries in Africa that was never colonized, they rode lions. And they even had bees attack with them side by side. They controlled bees through their frequency and lions through the frequency. They had an empathic connection. An electromagnetic pulse stemming from the heart. This is what the heart generates. And when you're using the Philosopher's Stone and you're operating on the frequency of love and you're in tune with all of nature, you can control the forces of nature. But you have to match the frequency the same way the bee does. The bee doesn't fly, it levitates by matching the frequency of the earth. Birds fly, bees levitate. Spiders don't fly, they use electricity. And they use the wind. And the wind is created by electricity. See, everything is actually one. And separation is the greatest illusion. When they came to enslave us, they couldn't defeat us in war. So how did we become slaves? Well, we said, we don't like them over there. I don't like them. Same color, same phenotype, same everything. Part of it was their family. But they were deemed a lower class. See, because they created the caste system. It wasn't white people. We created. Thousands of years ago, we created the first caste systems, the first mathematical systems. Everything that we see, we created. How to build. And this is why we built better structures thousands of years ago than they have today. We had all of this knowledge. Thing is, we fell because of our ego. See, all the knowledge that they control, and gatekeep within these cults and these organizations and these secret societies, where do you think they got the knowledge from? When their history only goes back so far, and then it turns black. They got that knowledge from us and the Moors. We went out to spread this knowledge. We were called gypsies. And gypsy was a term stemming from the term Gyptian. And Gyptian was a slur stemming from the term Egyptian, from Egypt. We were always sciences, mathematicians, fortune tellers, astronomers, astrologers, scientists, herbalists. We all knew these sciences. We all knew this knowledge. It was common. The gypsies and the Moors, we used to travel, and we traveled up into Europe. And when they first met us, they still had pictures and paintings. Well, not paintings, they still have paintings, not pictures. They still have paintings of us. When we first integrated into Europe, into their society, and we taught them how to wash themselves. And we taught them about astrology and astronomy, and we taught them about healing and the herbs and the earth and the animals and history and masonry and science and math. We taught them religion. We taught them magic. And this is what you see in the movie Maleficent. You see the Moors. But you also see the bloodline of Lilith and the bloodline of Eve. So the thing is, we talk about the elites and the ruling class, right? What is the ruling class? We say they're the 1%ers. We say they're the 1%ers, right? That's who the ruling class is, the 1%ers. The ones were the elite. And notice how they talk about the 13 bloodlines and the bloodlines. And you even hear killing off a bloodline, right? The bloodline that they're talking about are the original albinos. The original albinos that were outcast. The original albinos. The original albinos that were outcast. The original albinos who began mating with each other and went further on to outbreed their brown eyes, which contain melanin, their skin, which contain melanin or carbon, and their hair, which contain melanin, carbon, or ether. There's actually two types of melanin. One type of melanin, what we know, pigmentation melanin, which comes in shades of black, brown, yellow. And another type of melanin called eumelanin, which comes in shades of tan, white, peach, red, and yellow. One corresponds with the sun, and one corresponds with the moon. And so, initially, in the beginning, we outcasted albinos until they bred with each other. And they created their own race. And this is where the bloodline stems from. And this is where you have the 1%. Where would you get the 1% from? The 1% would only have to be produced with natural selection. And so we created them. And our karma today is the world which we see. The world in which we live in today is a result of our karma. Because in the beginning, we sold ourselves into slavery. They could not defeat us. But our own pride, our own hatred, our own envy, our own jealousy, our own wickedness, which we see in the Bible where we see Pharaoh and Moses. These are all black people. It's not a thing about race. See, because your family will do something before you go outside in the street and something happens to you, or there's something that a police officer does, or your friend, or your boyfriend or your girlfriend. We do things to ourselves as individuals. We do things. We harm ourselves the most. We tell ourselves the worst things. We do the worst things to ourselves. We allow the worst things done to ourselves and our families, our closest reflections, our relatives. We do things to each other. Why? Because some of us know that, well, you'll love us anyway. Or I don't care. And then we go out into the world. And we say, well, I don't know you. You don't look like me. And then we find differences. Oh, you speak a different language. You're from a different country. Your skin's a little bit lighter, a little bit darker. We even go so far as to, oh, you like the Texans? Well, I like the Cardinals. Which is funny. You know, I was a CNA, side note. I was a CNA in Chicago. And the Cubs had won the World Series. And I was taking one of the residents out for a smoke break. And he says, you a Cubs fan? I said, nah. I said, I'm from St. Louis. I really like the Cardinals, but I'm glad the Cubs won too. And he says, take me inside. He throws a cigarette. I was like, take me inside. He's like, I can't believe I'm out here with a Cards fan. Oh my God, this guy's like 60. But hey, the ego. When will it be alleviated? After death. And I don't mean ego death, I mean after death. Because even with these short ego deaths, another ego is born. And I don't get too sidetracked. So I go on to say, we find all these different differences to separate us. And what that man was telling me was, racism is a program. Colorism is a program. And I didn't really understand it at the time. But if you're really spiritual, then you would have to know that this is matter. This is matter. This belongs to the earth. If you're really spiritual, how could you be talking about all of these different, like, breaking down genetics and bloodlines and phenotypes and history to where you go back and you exalt a color of people over the entire world? That is racism. That is prejudice. And then you say, oh, well, they don't have pineal glands. Not true. Same way they said dogs don't have souls. They don't have feelings. When we watch dogs cry over their owners. When some dogs are more intelligent than you. Everything has life. Bugs have life. They have family. A bug's life. Trees have life. Trees are alive. Trees feel pain. Like, if we really take these programs into our mind and we activate them as reality, this is why we're walking around as zombies and not connected. But when you really know the truth, you'll know that this means nothing. You could have somebody in your house. You could have somebody that literally y'all came out of the same womb. Look just like you. Do you worse than anybody, you feel me, outside in the world. Just because they know you and they know you love them. And you're in the vicinity and it's easy. See, if they were to go outside and do something, they don't know how that person will respond, but they know you. And they know how things will play out. They go out there and do that, I don't know them. I don't know what they'll do. I don't know them like that, but I know you. I know exactly how you work. I know how you think. I know everything you've been through. because I've been through it too. And we're one and the same. See, when we talk about spirituality, you have to understand that that is a program. Even not only that, not only racism, but even a family. We chose our family before we incarnated into this physical plane. As a spirit, we chose a family which resonated on a certain frequency. To unlock us, to help us. There's missions that we complete together. There's information that our parents have to teach us. Even if you say you have good parents or bad parents or whatever, or your dad was in your life, your mom was in your life, or both parents were in your life, we manifest these things to teach us, and they're a part of our mission. See, life is not supposed to be just this twilight zone of like happiness and bliss and carefreeness. Like, we're here for something. We came here with a purpose. We came here to learn. We came here to grow. And our family is not even our family. They're souls like we're souls. Truth is, everyone is our family. Everything is our family. Everything is us. The plants, the bugs, the water, the trees. Everything is one. But this is the illusion of separation, where we have race, we have a color. Everything started off black, and then it began to separate and adapt to its environment. And phenotypes changed. You got big nostrils because the air is hot. You need to breathe. You have a narrow nose because the air is cold. And if you breathe in too much cold air at once, it'll shock you. You have a brow. You have all these different color eyes, and these things that change through evolution. But then you deem it and you say, okay, one is evil and one is more intelligent, or one is alien and one is naturally belongs here. We're all aliens. We didn't come from Earth. We're souls. This is the physical, this is like the third rock from the sun is the 3D. This third dimension, we are not from here. This is temporary. This is why we come here. We shed this body, we go back into the ether. We return to God, and we come back sometimes. And we change our form. And you may be a tree. You may be a white man. You may be a black man, a Chinese man. You may have spent your time, you may have spent your lifetime hating Chinese people. And then you come back. You feel me? In Beijing. You're born in Beijing as a Chinese man. You're a member of the Chinese army. You know, it's all futile. But it's the ego. Our ego wants us to hold on to these things. And so I don't want to get too much off topic. We talk about the 1%. So you've watched, everybody knows Mario. Everybody knows Mario. Mario Brothers. Everybody knows about Mario and Luigi. See, with Mario and Luigi, or with the Mario Brothers, see, everybody knows Mario. Or everybody knows Mario and Luigi. Super Mario, right? But this is the thing. So, hold on again. So, everybody knows Mario, right? Everybody's played the game called Mario. Now, if you watch Mario progress over the years, first we see Peach. Peach has white skin, blue eyes, and blonde hair. Peach is the princess. Peach is also a part of the 1%. And we talk about what is the 1%. The 1% is what exists in natural selection. That would be a phenotype or a race of human that is comprised of nothing but recessive traits, meaning the eye color, the most rarest, blue. The hair color, the most rarest, blonde. The skin color, the most rarest, white. That is the 1%. A complication of recessive traits. And so in order to establish this race, we see like Nazis, or we see Hitler. Hitler didn't even fit this phenotype. He had black eyes, brown hair, white skin, or dark brown eyes. He didn't even fit this, but he was a part of the movement to create and strengthen this race. And he went about eliminating millions of people through genocide, and they're still doing it today. It started with the Aboriginals. And this is why there are Aboriginals on each land, on each continent. And then they whitewashed the Aboriginal until further separation of the races. And then they created the rat race. They created the human races. Then they created the rat race. They created the caste system that goes up the pyramid. Then they created the race system. And so we look at Mario. Well, who did Mario have to save this white woman with blue eyes from? Blue eyes and blonde hair. Who did Mario have to save her from? He never gets to spend too much time with her. But who does he have to save her from? He has to save her from Donkey Kong to begin with. And who is Donkey Kong? If we watch Rampage, if we watch the old minstrel shows, if we look at even the culture of Donkey Kong is a caricature of a black man, the same way we watch Pokemon and we see that Jinx is a character of a black woman, which is named Jinx, not ironically. And notice she has a blonde wig. Mr. Popo. These are caricatures. And that's who Donkey Kong was. DK. Donkey Kong is here. He's an ape that lives in the islands. An ape that lives in the islands, that listens to hip hop music. He's a caricature of the black man. And that's who Mario had to save him from first. And then it goes on to what? To save him from Bowser. Who was Bowser? Well, if you look closer at Bowser is a ginger. He's a ginger turtle. He has red hair and white skin. Now, if you notice, like, ginger is another term where they call people with red hair and white eyes. or red hair and white skin. They call them gingers. And this is another thing, like, gingers were bullied because of their phenotype, because of their hair color, amongst other white people. And amongst other white people, you're bullied for not having a lot of money, and because of your hair color and your ancestry. That's why so much emphasis on the 1% and the bloodlines and racism. Racism is actually to protect the race, because the race would not exist without isolation, which is what created it. Isolation and racism is what created the race. Isolation and racism is what keeps the race alive. But you take it personal. This is why Dr. Sebi says he doesn't hate the white man. He's following the first law of nature, self-preservation. That's the only way they exist. And if you notice, they do a lot of things out of fear and not love, for control and for power. But if we go back further, I say this is karma because we created them. Everything that they're doing to us, we did to ourselves. And we did to them first. They were first our servants. They were Irish slaves. They were European slaves. They were albino slaves. And the same way they used to hang us by the tree and create these racist systems and try to exterminate us, if you look on the walls of Egypt, that's what we did to them, until they were forced out into the caves, until where they started their own society. Why? Because we were the land of black faces. So how could albinos be here? See, it was their own rejection that would come back to haunt them. See, it was their own pride and ego, which would lead to their own downfall. So we come to Earth, and the one thing that we're sent here to do is love. Learn about love, to experience love, and to share love. But love is something that's so complex. It's an action. It's a verb. It's a person. It's a feeling. It's a commitment. It's a way of life. It's a philosophy. God is love. There's so many different expressions of love. There's love that you share between your family. There's love you share between your friends. There's love you share between a romantic and intimate relationship. There's love you share between animals and nature. There's love you share between strangers. Just because I don't know you doesn't mean I can't love you. I recognize namaste. I recognize the God in you and the God in me. That God are we. Whenever there are two or more gathered in my name, I am there. So we look at this like it's karma. And it's also meant to teach us. And it's for our evolution, it's for our growth. Strong men create strong men create good times. Good times create weak men. Weak men create hard times. Hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men. Weak men create hard times. Hard times create strong men. And so, this is the cycle. This is the cycle of life. This is the cycle of evolution. And it's this whole dance like yin and yang. Darkness, light, the sun, the moon, good, bad, rain, sunny. Same 4 seasons, same 24 hours. Every day. Time doesn't exist. You may be a newer soul, you may be an older soul. We continue to fragment and we continue to reunite. But we're all one. The 1%, the white race, blonde hair, blue eyes, the 13 bloodlines, we created them. The knowledge that they hold, we gave them the knowledge. Everything that they're doing to us, that's so evil and wicked. Not to say that it's not. But I want you to understand, we've done this to ourselves first. Then we did it to them, and now they're doing it to us. And today, we still do it to ourselves. If you're really spiritual, you'll understand that race is simply a disposition. Being black doesn't make you good. It just makes you black. There's black people who want to help only black people. There's black people who don't care, who are just out for themselves. And you find this in every race. You go to the natives and you go to the reservation. What do you find? The chiefs don't spend the resources. They don't spend the money, right? Or they don't share the resources. It's only for the in crowd or the higher ups. Everything is separation, and separation is an illusion.